everyone, welcome to day 20 of Bookmas. So yesterday was another Sean Saturday, and Sean introduced you to the Can't Say I Didn't Tried book tag, which is another unique tag that he has made. So he's just super duper creative and he's making tags left, right and centre, and I just don't have the brain power to even make one. So I'm really glad that he has challenged me to complete this one and that I'll be able to share my answers to his tag. I'll link his original tag down in the description. And then if you pop back through our Bookmas playlist, you'll be able to see his Count to 10 with me book tag that he created at the beginning of the month, and his last week Sean Saturday, which was his 10 favourite books that he shared with us. So without further ado, the first prompt for the Can't Say I Didn't Try book tag is a book I should have DNF'd, and this was hard because I've had a lot this year that I probably should have DNF'd, but I've decided to go way back to before I did blogging, and it's actually the book that inspired me to start my blog, and that is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I hated this. I ranted about it with all of my friends, and one of them was like, oh, like, you should waste your time doing more important things. Like, not exactly that, but like something along those lines. Like, basically like that I was being really down on it for no reason and that I should try and use my time to do more constructive stuff. And I was like, you know what, I will use my time constructively by bitching about books. Like, I'll make a blog and I'll bitch about books as a hobby, and ever since then I have. So you'll know what The Fault in Our Stars is about. Two kids both have cancer, they fall in love, it's sad, but I just hate it. I don't like the writing in it. I think it feels very juvenile. I think that it romanticizes sickness in a way that isn't beneficial to people who are suffering from those illnesses. Yeah, just not a huge fan of it, and it really annoys me because he kind of plagiarizes himself at the end. Like, he quotes one of his best lines from Looking for Alaska and uses it in The Fault in Our Stars. And I just think that if you're gonna kind of quote yourself, either you're really, really up yourself because you're like, oh, I'm so good, I'll quote me, or you just have no more original ideas. So you're like, I really like that line that I used, I'll use that line again. And I think that was what annoyed me more than anything, because Looking for Alaska is one of my favourite books, and I just don't like the fact that it kind of detracted from the impact of that by copying it in The Fault in Our Stars. Yeah, that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but that was like the first book that really, truly irritated me. So I should have DNF'd it. The second prompt in the Can't Say I Didn't Try book tag is the most books in a series that you've read without finishing that series. And for this one, I've got to go with Pretty Little Liars by Sarah Shepherd. I've got a feeling that it ends up being either 16 or 17 books. It's like a spin-off story that's like short stories set earlier in the series, and I don't know if it actually counts as part of the series. But I think I got to book 11 or book 12 on these. So the Pretty Little Liars books were released in sets of 4. So you had like the first 4, then between like 5 and 8 was another story, and then between 9 and 12 was another story, and then between 13 and 16 was like the last story. And I read the first 3 in their entirety, and I'll be honest, most of them ended up getting like 2 or 3 star ratings. I kept reading them because I wanted to enjoy them as much as I loved the TV show, and I did enjoy the first couple, but I think if this had just been a set of 4, it would have been much more impactful. It's the case that, like, whereas in the TV show you've got past characters will come back, they'll like pop in and out and they'll make an impact on the wider story. In the novel, Sarah Shepherd kind of writes a character in for one book and then they're never mentioned again, and I'm not a huge fan of that, especially when it's a character that you get really attached to, or when you've got like a ship coupling like Arya and Mr. Fitz, which is like such an iconic ship from the show. And he's literally in like 2 books and he's just never mentioned again. I'm not really a fan of that. So I'm probably never going to finish this series, but I am impressed that I managed to read as many of them as I did, because this is one I should have given up earlier, but I just really wanted to end up loving them. The next prompt on the Can't Say I Didn't Try book tag is a hyped author that you just can't read, and that for me is James Patterson. So James Patterson has like hundreds of thousands of books, and he writes them all with like a co-author. So, like, on this one, it's James Patterson and Andrew Gross. I've read one of his books. It was a short story, and it was, like, one of the worst things I'd ever read. And I laughed my way through it because it was just so bad. I couldn't even believe it had been published. And I just don't really get the idea of, like, oh, I'm such a great author. I've got, like, this many books published. And they're all original ideas. Like, you can't deny the fact that he has, like, original thoughts. for stories, but then the fact that he doesn't write them himself and he just kind of like hires people to write the stories for him, like I don't like that. I don't really agree with that. And if the people that he's hiring to write the stories aren't that good anyway, then what is he playing at, really? I might eventually try the Women's Murder Club series because we've got the first 3 of them. I got them out of library book sales, so these were like probably 50p each. And I'll probably give them a try, but I'm just not that excited, and I don't think me and James Patterson are ever going to be best friends. The 4th prompt is a genre that you rarely read from, and for this one I'm going with historical fiction. So I did the anti-book tag. I've filmed it, but you won't have seen that yet. And in there I mentioned the fact that I don't really read romance, but it's more a case of like, I don't read romance, like erotica romance, not like chick lit romance. I like those kind of romance stories. But then historical is just a genre that I rarely pick up. I'm not sure why. I like some historical stories. I can't think of any off the top of my head, which isn't great, but yeah. I like classics that are set in the past, because they're written, like when they were written, they were contemporary, and I think that there's a difference there, so you can feel how genuine the descriptions and the settings and the characters are because they were just everyday life back then. So I love Jane Austen's novels. I think that she's really, really brilliant because she kind of does a lot of social commentary based off the past. But a lot of the people who are writing in the contemporary period, but they are writing historical stories, I just have a bit of a disconnect with them, and I never feel too attached to the characters. I never really feel like the settings are kind of that fleshed out. So I prefer to read books that are published ages ago rather than books that are published now in the historical genre. Please recommend me some historical books if you have any that you think I would like, though, because it's always a genre that I've wanted to read more from. So you might be able to change my mind on that one. The next prompt is the most elusive book, which is a book you just cannot get your hands on. For this one, I would have picked the Red Rising UK hardback, but Sean picked that one, so I wanted to pick a different one. And so I'm going with the Muse of Nightmares proof. So I got sent an arc of Strange the Dreamer, and it is beautiful. Like, this is one of the most stunning books that I've ever owned, and I absolutely love it with my whole heart. And I've never bought Muse of Nightmares because I want to have matching editions, and there's no way to get hold of this. Like, it's a unicorn. There's not even really any on, like, Books for Trade sites. And I'm never going to have it, but I really, really want it. And it's beautiful. But I'm just so grateful that I have the first one. Like, I'm really, really grateful for that. And this is one of my favourite books. I've actually just borrowed the second one from the library so that I can finally finish the story, because where I didn't buy it and then I couldn't get it through, like, ebooks or through the library, I just never finished this duology off. But I will be doing that very, very soon, which I'm excited about. The next prompt on the Can't Say I Didn't Try tag is an author that you keep getting recommended, but you just don't think that you're going to enjoy their books, so you haven't read them yet. And that for me is Colleen Hoover. So as far as I'm aware, Colleen Hoover writes like new adult, they're quite angsty romances. There's a lot of kind of drama going on with the characters. There's some people who've been in like abusive relationships. There are some that are about people like cheating and stuff. And although I've got a couple of her books on Kindle just because they've been the daily deal and they've got beautiful covers, I just don't ever feel compelled to pick them up. Some people say that her books are quite problematic because she like romanticizes abuse, and there are other kind of things that have been mentioned in the past that put me off. But whenever anybody kind of mentions an author like, oh yeah, like Colleen Hoover, like she's really good, I'm like, I don't know whether I trust it. I will probably end up trying her eventually, just because I have this weird thing that like, even if I think I'm not going to like something, I'm like, I'll read it anyway, just so I know for sure, because I'm stupid. But I will probably give her a go, but not anytime soon. The next prompt is a book which has a better cover in a different language, and for this one I'm going for the Indonesian version of The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, because like, just look at it. That is absolutely stunning. The Dragon Republic is just as beautiful. I haven't seen the Indonesian version of The Burning God yet, but I can imagine it's going to be just as beautiful. Like, they are such stunning covers. And I love my Illuma Crate editions because they are absolutely gorgeous. And I will link my unboxing for those down below in case you haven't seen them yet, because they are stunning editions, but the Indonesian ones are just that little bit more beautiful, and it makes me wish I read Indonesian just so I had the excuse to purchase them. The next prompt is a book that you've only watched the movie or the TV adaptation, and for that one I'm going for The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. So I'm the kind of person that I always love reading the book first. I will purposefully not watch movies until I've read the books, because I have a weird thing about it. But I was at a friend's birthday party and we finished watching The Lion King, and then she was like, what's everyone want to watch next? And it was like The Hunger Games, and I was like, no, I haven't read the book yet, but I was voted down, so I watched it and I really enjoyed it, and I don't know why I haven't picked up the book, and I think it's probably literally just because I watched the movie and I'm like, I can't read the book after watching the movie, so I'll just never read the book. I'm stupid. Like, I have weird quirks and they make my life difficult. But yes, this is about a girl called Katniss who has to enter into the Hunger Games, and she's in District 9, and you're like teenagers killing each other and trying to survive this fight thing. Sounds amazing. Enjoyed the movie. Had some problems with it, but I think that the casting was really good. Like, Jennifer Lawrence is great in it. And also I've heard that it's quite similar to the first book in the Red Rising series, like that they've got like the kind of clans against each other, the houses, and they're all kind of killing each other to try and survive, and I've heard it's kind of similar, and I don't know whether I will like it because of that or whether I won't like it because of that, but I will read them eventually. I just haven't read them yet. All the unpopular opinions today. The next prompt is a book that you wouldn't watch if it got adapted, and for this one I'm going with Outwalkers by Fiona Shaw. This is a dystopian novel which is set in the UK. It's kind of post-Brexit, saying that like we're completely closed off from everybody, and there's a boy whose family get killed, so he's trying to travel up to Scotland, I think, because he's trying to get to his grandparents. So he's like going cross country, and he meets like this gang of teenagers, and they're all like trying to get to the safety of Scotland. And I just think like I didn't like the book because I didn't like, there's a non-standard way of writing the dialogue, so it's all hyphenated with no quotation marks, and I know that that's kind of a style for some people, but I didn't get on with it at all. I couldn't understand who was speaking when. There was some hyphens that were missing, so it didn't look as though it was speech and then it was speech, and you couldn't really tell because there were no attributions. So it was a conflicting reading experience for me, and it took me a long time to get through this book. I only ended up finishing it because it was on the way book price shortlist, but the winner was announced in the May, and I finished this in like the August. It took me that long. But yeah, if this one was adapted, I definitely wouldn't watch it, because I think, number one, it's scary because it's very topical and it's very current and relevant, and I don't want us to end up being trapped in this country. But also I think that because of the way that the story is told, it wouldn't translate very well. So yeah, that's the one that I would avoid. The next prompt is a series that should not have been continued, and this is going to be another unpopular one because I'm going to carry on my Rainbow Rowell. I did not like Wayward Son. I liked the concept of Wayward Son. I liked the idea of following the Chosen One after the events that they were chosen for. I liked the exploration of depression, and I liked the exploration of the relationship kind of carrying on after they get together and have like their big kind of romantic connection, whether your relationship can last after that. So I thought the concept was really great. The execution was just shoddy. It's about half the size of this one, so it's rushed. There's not much actually going on in the plot. They go to America for some reason, and I can't remember why. And then at the end of the book they're like, let's go back to the UK. So you've literally just taken your characters from the UK to America just to then be like, oh, let's go back to like resolve the story where it started. And I just don't really think it made much sense. Like, oh, I want them to go on a road trip around America. Yeah, sure, but like, why? Sean says it feels like a half-assed holiday special of a TV show, and I completely agree with that. But yeah, like, I loved this first book, and then I was really excited about the sequel. I think I ended up giving it 3 stars, but that was because I still had my hopes so high for it that I was like, oh no, it definitely wasn't that bad. It's just because my hopes were so high that I'm like judging it too harshly. But reflecting on it a year after reading it, I feel even more harsh towards it. So I definitely think I was very generous giving it a 3-star. And it's a case of I'm not sure whether I'm going to finish the series because of how much I didn't like book 2. Whoops. And then the last prompt is a trope that puts you off of reading a book. And I was torn on this one because I said to Sean recently, like, I've noticed in some of the books I've been reading recently that there seems to be the trope of like, oh, it was only a mistake, he didn't mean it. And I've read 2 books recently where the love interest has been involved in a car accident and somebody has been either horrendously injured or has been killed. And the protagonist has been like, but it's fine, because you didn't mean to hurt anyone. What? He killed someone with his car, and you're like, but it's okay, it doesn't matter that you were driving drunk, it was a mistake. Like, that pisses me off, because that ain't a-okay. And I've only noticed it in 2 books recently, but it's because I've read them really close together. I'm like, is this a trope that I'm just unaware of? Like, does this happen in more things when you're like, oh yeah, you killed someone, but that's fine because I love you and you're really hot? Sean's saying it happens in 13 Reasons Why. Someone hits someone with their car in 13 Reasons Why.
Brush it off like, oh.
But they do brush it off.
Like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe this is just a trope that's like going on, but that wouldn't put me off of reading a story because I don't know it's in there until I'm already reading it. If I knew beforehand, it wouldn't put me off. So I don't know if that can count for this prompt. But it annoys me either way. I just wanted to put that in there. So what I ended up going with was Forbidden Love. Because, well, number one of the books that I read that had the it's fine, you didn't mean to hurt anyone was also like a girl falling in love with her soon-to-be stepbrother. I didn't like that. If I'd known going in that like the forbidden interest was the stepbrother, I would not have picked the book up. I genuinely thought it was going to be like the next door neighbour or something. Like, oh, I can't be with him because like we live next door to each other and it'd be really awkward. Like, I didn't see the fact that it was like siblings coming. But there's also a very popular coupling in a Cassandra Clare book where they are siblings. You've probably all read it. You'll know what I mean. But I did not like that at all, and I was put off by that, and I think that's one of the reasons that I don't want to read Cassandra Clare's novels in case she uses that trope again. So we're going to go with like forbidden love / sibling love. Would definitely make me avoid a book, but yeah, this is a hard one. This was probably the hardest out of all of the prompts. And those are all of my answers for the Can't Say You Didn't Try book tag. This was a really, really fun tag and I've gotten so into it. So I can't believe that Sean made it. Like, that sounds really bad, but like, he's really, really good at making tags. And I'm just really impressed by him. I'd like to tag My Curiosity has just been delivered and I'm very excited. So we're going to be unboxing this in a moment, which is something we weren't expecting today. But yes, I'm going to tag Eric from Break Even Books again because I love him and he's wonderful. I'm going to tag Aoife from Pretty Purple Polka Dots again because she's wonderful. And I will tag you if you're interested in doing it because I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head. But yes, if you'd like to do this tag, please do it. And then link a video down below because I'd like to see other people's answers for this one. Really interested to see what people think they should have DNF'd because I don't know whether everybody's going to go for something that's as unpopular as my one. This is going to get me in trouble. We're going to lose subscribers over this. I'm so sorry. But yes, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like it. If you would like to subscribe, I would be really grateful. I promise I'm not often this controversial and I don't have that many unpopular opinions. I just have some that I'm really passionate about. And we will see you tomorrow for the next day of Bookmas.